Atmosphere on Today with Jenna and Friends was supposed to be light and upbeat that morning, with Kylie Kelce booked as the special guest to talk about her charity work and her life as part of one of America's most famous football families. From the moment she walked onto the set, however, there was a certain stiffness in her smile. Jenna Hager, usually warm and chatty, opened with a question about Kylie's community initiatives, but almost immediately pivoted to the topic of her husband Jason Kelce's recent viral comments about another NFL player. Kylie's eyes narrowed just slightly, viewers later said. They could see her jaw tense even through the camera's soft lighting. Kylie gave a measured answer at first, emphasizing that her husband spoke for himself and that she wasn't there to dissect locker room chatter. Jenna laughed lightly, saying, "Oh, come on, the viewers love the inside scoop." But before Kylie could redirect, co-host Sheinelle Jones jumped in, asking whether Kylie ever told Jason to tone it down when he got too passionate. Kylie shifted in her seat, her hands clasped tightly together. "I don't think a man speaking passionately about his sport needs to be toned down," she replied sharply, especially when that same energy is celebrated in others. The live audience let out a mix of chuckles and oohs, sensing an edge in her voice. Trying to keep things moving, Jenna pulled up a pre-prepared segment showing paparazzi photos of Kylie and Jason on date nights. "We just want to know who picks the outfits," Jenna teased. Kylie, instead of laughing, sighed audibly. "Is this why I'm here? To talk about my husband's clothes instead of the work I do?" The sudden seriousness caught everyone off guard. Jenna tried to smile it off, but Kylie leaned slightly forward and added, "It's interesting how women connected to athletes get reduced to +1s on morning TV." The audience reaction was split. Some clapped, others stayed silent. Chanel attempted to soften things by praising Kylie's charity events, but she prefaced it with, "Of course, none of us would know who you are without Jason," and that's when everything shifted. Kylie froze for a second, her expression unreadable. Then she slowly said, "Do you realize how dismissive that is?" The tone in her voice was calm but cutting. The control room later admitted that this was the moment they started debating whether to cut to commercial early. Jenna interjected with, "Oh, she didn't mean it like that," but Kylie was already shaking her head. Intent doesn't erase impact. As Jenna tried to pivot to a lighter question about Kylie's kids, Kylie interrupted, "No, let's actually stay on this for a second, because I think it's important. I am proud of my marriage, but I have an identity outside of my husband's career. And every time women come on shows like this, they get asked about their partners first, their outfits second, and maybe their work if there's time left over. That's not harmless, it's exhausting." The live crowd broke into applause, but it wasn't the cheerful kind. It was the kind that meant they knew they were watching something unusual for morning TV. Jenna, now visibly uncomfortable, tried to steer the energy back to safe ground by saying, "We're just here to celebrate you." Kylie gave a small laugh, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Celebrate me by asking about me," she replied. She sat back in her chair, clearly deciding whether to keep engaging or walk away. The air on set felt heavier with each passing second. Producers in the booth signaled to wrap up the interview early, but the segment still had 3 minutes left to fill. Chanel attempted one more save by bringing up Kylie's recent keynote speech for a women's leadership conference, but framed it as a supportive wife's perspective. That was the final straw. Kylie smiled tightly, unclipped her microphone, and stood up. "I think we're done here," she said calmly, but firmly. The audience gasped, some audibly whispering. Jenna reached out toward her, saying, "Kylie, wait, we didn't mean," but Kylie was already stepping away from the couch. The cameras caught her walking off set, passing a stunned floor crew as Jenna awkwardly laughed and told viewers, "We'll be right back after this short break." The cut to commercial was abrupt, with no usual teaser for the next segment. Online, clips from the walk-off started circulating within minutes, with hashtags like #Kylie, KELCE, walks off, and #morningshowmess trending before the show even ended. Social media immediately split into two camps: those praising Kylie for calling out casual sexism in live interviews, and those accusing her of being overly sensitive on a lighthearted program. NFL fans, pop culture commentators, and women's rights advocates all jumped into the debate, turning a 4-minute TV moment into a national conversation. By noon, talk radio hosts were dissecting the exchange, and one sports blogger wrote, "Kylie Kelce just made the biggest play of the morning off the field." That evening, Jenna and Chanel released a joint statement saying they regretted any misunderstanding and that they valued Kylie's voice and contributions. But Kylie's own Instagram story told a different side, a black background, with white text reading, "If you want to celebrate women, start by actually listening to them." The next day's ratings for Today. But for the fallout from a clash that no one in morning TV will soon forget, then 48 hours after walking off Today with Jenna and Friends, Kylie Kelce agreed to appear on a nationally syndicated evening talk show, then morning TV. The host, aware of the viral attention, wasted no time diving in. "Kylie, when you stood up and walked out, did you know it was going to blow up like this?" Kylie smiled faintly, leaning into the microphone. "I didn't think about going viral," she said. "I thought about not sitting through one more conversation where my worth is measured by who I married." The studio audience erupted in applause, many standing on their feet. Clips from this appearance hit social media within minutes, further fueling the debate. Meanwhile, inside NBC's Today production offices, executives held tense meetings about how to handle the backlash. Jenna Hager reportedly texted Kylie personally, apologizing again and suggesting they meet off-camera to talk things through. Kylie, in a subtle but unmistakable move, posted a screenshot of her phone's notification Jenna's name, visibly alongside the caption. "Some conversations need to be public." That post alone racked up hundreds of thousands of likes. In under an hour, sports media jumped into the fray, with NFL commentators weighing in on their own shows. Some defended Kylie, pointing out that wives of male athletes are rarely given space to talk about their own achievements. Others accused her of making drama for attention. Jason Kelce stayed quiet at first, but when a reporter caught him outside a Philadelphia charity event, he said simply, "She said what needed to be said. That's my wife." That short sentence made headlines in itself, seen as a public endorsement of Kylie's stance, by the end of the week. #AskMeNotMyHusband was trending on Twitter, sparked by women sharing stories of their own interviews, or conversations where they were overshadowed by their spouse's identity. Kylie reposted several of these stories to her Instagram, making it clear she saw this as bigger than just her moment on Today. Late-night comedians began joking about the Jenna versus Kylie saga, but some also admitted Kylie had made a fair point about how women are portrayed in media. NBC's PR team decided to offer Kylie a formal invitation to return to Today with Jenna and Friends, but this time with the agreement that the entire segment would be about her work on her terms. Leaked emails revealed some staff weren't thrilled about the idea, worried it would look like the network was bowing to guest demands. Still, the invite went out, and Kylie's response was short and sharp. "I'll come back when the apology is as public as the disrespect was." That message went viral within minutes. Paparazzi began following Kylie around more aggressively, hoping to capture any candid reaction shots or overheard comments. At one point, while loading groceries into her car, she looked directly at a camera and said, "Is this what it takes to get people to care about a children's literacy fundraiser?" That clip became yet another rallying cry for her supporters, many of whom began tagging morning shows demanding more thoughtful interview questions for female guiyus behind the scenes. Jenna and Chanel were said to be privately frustrated, feeling they'd been painted as villains for what they insisted were lighthearted comments. Producers, however, acknowledged that Kylie's walk-off had boosted viewership numbers in a way no celebrity cooking segment ever could. A debate started brewing inside the network. Was it better to let the story die or lean into the controversy for ratings? The tension reached a new peak when Kylie announced she'd be speaking at a high-profile women's conference in New York, with a keynote titled Beyond the Plus One, rewriting the script for women in the spotlight. Within minutes of the announcement, the conference sold out its remaining tickets. Media outlets began speculating whether Jenna or Chanel might attend as a public gesture of reconciliation, or to avoid looking like they were hiding from the issue. The day of the speech, Dozens of reporters waited outside the venue, and the live stream drew hundreds of thousands of viewers. Kylie delivered her message with clarity and fire, weaving her own experience into a broader creed.